Today, I have the pleasure, I'm blessed to be meeting David. He's come to join us. David, you just want to introduce yourself to our audience. Let them know briefly a little bit about who you are, what you do, what you're about.
I'm David Renton. I live in Galway. I'm originally from Dublin, Ireland. I work at Genesis as a security compliance project manager. I have ADHD and dyslexia, so they're my superpowers. And I don't know what else is interesting about me. I've been living in Galway for the last 20 years. I've worked in computer science for the last 10. Before that, I was a cabinet maker. Before that, a doorman, and I had many other jobs until I discovered what I was supposed to do with the rest of my life, or what I wanted to do when I grew up.
Love it.
What else?
That's it. That's good. So interestingly, there you mentioned a few things which I think a lot of us can resonate. The variety of things you've already experienced in your life, that you've dipped your toe in many things before you got to the incredible place that you are. And just to let the audience know, we had the pleasure of meeting because I did a talk with you at your organization, and that's where I got to learn about you and your experience. And I found it to be fascinating, incredible, beautiful, and raw all at once. And that's why I was so pleased to be able to get you on to chat and to share your experiences. So just tell us then, David, when you talk about ADHD and all those different experiences, where did the journey start for you? When did you realize that there was something beautiful about that wonderful brain of yours and perhaps different? Take us through some of those early years or latter years as part of that understanding and appreciation.
Sure, yeah, no problem. Well, both our later discoveries in life. So during the schooling years, they were talking like I'm 44 now, so we're going back a little bit. It doesn't feel it for me, but for people that are listening, it's going back a little bit, where neurodivergence things weren't really diagnosed in school, and you were just put down to the slow class, and that was you. Off you went. And I happened to be fortunate to be quite good at rugby when I was growing up. Well, reasonable, and I think I got away with an awful lot in school because of that. So when you were good at sport, you didn't do your homework, you'd be fine. So that was kind of I kind of skated a little bit. Now my mother, bless her, used to sit us down. We were just talking about this recently when we were going on a boat over to France from Ireland, and even sitting in the car waiting to get onto the ferry. Mum was in the back seat of the car. This is one of the memories I have, doing times tables with me in the back and spellings. So Mum put in an awful lot of work into my academic achievements when I was younger. Not that I achieved very much, and sports seemed to be where I was going to head with my life at that stage. So with that, I didn't do very well in school. I always kind of had this path mapped out, but always had those hyper tendencies, but not very, and always looking to get out to the next thing. There was a lot going on as a younger gentleman, which had it been in this day and age, people would have gone, that guy needs to go and get diagnosed with ADHD like right now. So, but we didn't have anybody in our lives that way that was clued in. So it just went as, it's probably the sports thing. And that was just how it was left, and it was carried on. So after school, there was a small bit of third level, not a massive amount in sports and leisure management, where I discovered I love playing sports, not teaching it. So that was that. So after that, it kind of bounced around a lot, doing various jobs. Fell into repairing Kirby vacuum cleaners in Scotland. I went to Edinburgh for a time just to do a bit of exploration, and in Belfast and back down in Dublin again, where I would go out to people's homes who had these expensive vacuum cleaners, pull them apart, service them, put them back together, while having that one-to-one engagement, which was really feeding into my meeting new people, get the energy, feed the energy back, perform an action, go get that building thing was done. So that was wonderful, but it was driving like oh, 70 hours a week. We're driving across country to people's houses. It was tough going. I enjoyed it because I was young at the time. But then kind of settled back in Enniskerry in Ireland, just Dublin and down a little bit. That's where that is, in a small town. When that kind of finished up and went, okay, I can't be driving around the country anymore. This is ridiculous. Spending far too long driving. So the local pub said, well, we have a job as a barman. I went, that seems a great idea. And off I went because it had that interaction piece where I was dealing with people, having the crack, getting the energy levels up, and really feeding into all those things that we now know are kind of ADHD-ish behaviors. And also, notice we're staying away from a lot of ready righty kind of jobs. That was the dyslexia bit, where it's doable. It's not that I can't do it. It just takes an awful lot of effort, and I have to read one word at a time. And once I've read through it, then I can read through it a second time, and then I can read it out loud. But reading out loud, no, let's not do that unless I've had practice with the specific text. So back to the pub. So in the pub, I discovered I enjoyed doing the barman's job. So I spent 4 years doing that and qualified as a barman and enjoyed it. But then moved to Galway, met my current wife. We had a baby, and working a pub doesn't kind of mesh very well with family life. So okay, find something else to do. So all of these jobs were kind of jobs of opportunity, not anything greatly planned out or with any significant planning of where the future should be. It's just what can I do right now? What can I do? What am I able to do? What's available? I can do that. Let's go. And that was it. So we were having a baby. What am I going to do? Can't work in a pub anymore. So I worked as a cabinet maker's helper when I was in school. We do a fourth year here, which is like a transition year. You get to go and do some work experience. So in that, I worked on a building site with a cabinet maker who was fitted furniture and kitchens. So I was like, oh, that was really enjoyable. I'll go and do that now that I'm having a baby because I enjoyed that camaraderie, the creation, the building. So I was like, oh, I'll go and do that. So I went and trained as an apprentice back down to the beginning. Here's the start of life number 3. Started training as a cabinet maker. Went all the way through, did the college bits and everything, qualified. Then had some medical issues where I couldn't do that anymore. Then we had a financial crash. Then no one was building kitchens anymore. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? On to life number 4. So like every time when I was working in the cabinet maker job, when I'd come home, I'd be like drop all the stuff and I'd pull apart computers, putting things together, doing various things, building computers out of scrap, and getting parts out of one, putting it into the other, just generally poking around. And we were over at my brother's in America, and I was like, oh, I want to see what's on RT, and they're like, oh, you can't get it from here. I was like, oh, I'll just route the traffic through here, and I'll put it this VPN, and blah blah blah, and now we have it. And they did that, and they were like, you should definitely do computer stuff. And I was like, really, do you think so? So that was the kind of choice made to go. I went back to university, did a college entry course, and when given the opportunity and the adult mindset and more understanding of the self and and having a goal with which to try and attain, the schoolwork became an awful lot easier, including maths, which would have been
Wow.
kind of my worst subject in school, where it
Yeah.
translated to my best subject in university because there
Really?
was a way and an answer, and I could attach a feeling of I can figure this out, I can fix it, and then I can prove that it's right because it's maths. You don't have to. It's not subjective anymore, and it
It's not
became
about
meaningful.
remembering the
So
times table anymore, right? It's not about the memory. It's
yeah,
about how you actually put it into practice.
exactly, Theo. And that was a big moment. It's not that long ago, and as I said at the start, I'm 44. It took me like to 33 years to get that moment where I went, oh, there you go. I don't know if people have that moment just earlier in life, or was it just a me thing? Is it a neuro thing? Because we don't talk about these things. And when we spoke, like I know I'm jumping around here, and I apologize for that, but I just want to break the narrative of this. Earlier on, we spoke about having conversations with other people, how important it is to have a good friend group amongst us men, us people, whoever, just having those open and honest conversations. I mean, I'll never get an answer to, is that a David thing? That discovery moment of, that was my, oh, you need to put things together in a way that makes it that you're fixing something, not just remembering something, for it to sink in and for it to be enjoyable, for you to scratch your itch. Is that a David thing and you're a D thing, or just a computer science person thing? It's only through having conversations like we're having now, or that I've had with some of my close friends, that you get to ask those questions without fear of ridicule or without looking stupid or thinking you're going to feel. No, you're probably not going to look stupid at all, but you're going to feel like you're going to look stupid, which will prevent you from saying these things out loud. Which I
And that
suppose is
and
why
that
you do these
feeling,
podcasts, so we can say this.
yeah, and that feeling of feeling stupid, right, comes from a whole history of maybe feeling a bit stupid, right? So you're right. It's not necessarily you ask, just when you always feel like you're the one who's asking the questions, when you're always the one who feels like you don't quite get what they're talking about, you then start to feel a bit stupid, right? Irrelevant whether you are. Clearly you're not, because your point you're making there, which actually we don't hear often enough, is you weren't bad at maths. You just weren't able to learn in the style that they were teaching you in, right? And this is a fundamental problem that we have, that I hear all the time. And I can't make decisions for other people, but what I can say, I think we often are subject to other people's views, other people's systems and processes of learning that harm us. And therefore, then at any point in our life, it's really hard for us to see the good in ourselves. And if you've been told you're rubbish long enough, where is the good? So I really understand and I can empathize with the community when sometimes they talk about not being able to see strengths, not being able to see themselves as being really good at anything, when you've had a lifetime of people telling you what you can't do. And I just think it's a beautiful example, David, of like, it's never too late, right, to go, actually, I can do maths when I implement it to the thing I'm really passionate about, which is pulling apart technology or putting technology together. And you attribute numbers, digits to that process that I love doing. In that context, it's amazing. I love being on a rugby pitch, using up all that extra energy I have and being revered for it. People saying, hey, David, you're brilliant. Go, David. And in Ireland, being great at rugby is equivalent to being a great mathematician, right? Or whatever. In Wales, it's the same. Who cares about qualifications? Like, you're good at rugby, all is
All is
forgiven
forgiven.
or praised, however you want to look at it. But I
Yeah.
just think I wanted to time stamp that moment that you've just said, David, there, because I think people miss that simple fundamental point that we are subject to other people's views, other people's systems, other people's processes that effectively harm us. And the minute we kick some of those over and take control of them, right, either through our own networks, our own friendships, or just through our own grit and persistence, that's when things change for us. And unfortunately, we have to take some sense of responsibility to make that happen, because unfortunately sometimes, other than maybe a loved one, a partner or a family member dragging us out of a difficult situation, there may not be anybody there to do it for us. So thank you, and I think it's a good point. So where was then the you've yet to talk about where was the connection, or I've missed it, of the actually this is a neurological difference, that not only can you do some of these things that you thought you couldn't do, but actually there's some neurological variation difference that means your brain processes information in perhaps a nuanced way. And that getting hold of that started to transform the way that you saw yourself and others, and you went on this journey from a neurodiversity perspective.
Well, the dyslexia thing was when I was preparing to do a school reading for confirmation, because we're all nice Catholic boys in Ireland. It was a Catholic school, so I had to do a reading thing, and I had to read the thing twice. Then I could read it out loud, because you have to read it out loud, and everyone else was just reading it. I was like, "Do you not have to read it first?" And they went, "No. Why would I do that?" Like, oh, because I have to read the words and then I have to read the sentence. And they went, no. And as child, you just go, okay. But then when you put that together and have those memories, you go, oh, that's why that's different. Okay. But then you do your these the there's a standard set of exams you do, but moving from the junior school to the senior school, it's standard. And one of those one of those tests they give you, it's to see where your strengths lie and what subjects you
Yes.
should be doing when you go to big school. And one of them is spatial awareness, and they show you a shape, and the shape is exploded out, and you go, right, what shape is that when it's exploded out? And there's a load of different ones, and you got to match them up. And I did reasonably exceptionally well in that, where I was thinking, no, that's that one, and it's that one. Just look at it and see it, and it's like, oh, that's another thing that's quite unusual. And just after the fact, talking to people, and they went, oh, that was really hard. I was, oh, I found that quite easy. And then putting everything together through conversations, you realize that your brain works a little bit differently to other people. Then, of course, there was the hyperactivity thing, and the constantly running. I mean, I'd see an open space and want to go, that'd be great fun to run that. And you have an open, honest conversation with anybody else, they go, no, we don't think that at all. That's ridiculous. So, yeah, I'm not sure there was a moment. There were many moments, and all put together, and eventually all the jigsaw pieces made a whole.
And how did that
Does that make
impact
sense?
yeah, definitely. And I think that is probably true for a lot
Yeah.
of us. It's a point of realization where you then go back and connect the dots. And then it's like a flood of emotions and experiences where you go, oh, like you just said, oh, that's why that moment happened. And often we have a very
Yeah.
good visual memory as well. So actually what I find, and what it sounds like you were sharing there, is when you do find like a connection, you see something, you then are able to see way further back. Whereas my memory's quite poor working memory, so I struggle to remember certain things. But if I get a connection visually, emotionally, my senses go crazy. So all of a sudden, I can talk to people about stuff that happened 20 years ago as if I'm in that moment because of these connecting dots. And I go, so that's why that felt really painful. And it felt painful 5 years ago when that happened, and 3 years ago when that happened, and 2 years ago. So it is something quite powerful, again, in the realization of what's going on in the human brain. And for some people, that's traumatic, by the way, because they realize there's lots of moments in their life that maybe could have worked differently and they could have made different decisions. So there's some trauma that can happen with that. But I think there's also like a good opportunity for healing and for the realization of, you weren't broken, or you weren't a problem, or it's just that your brain in
Oh,
that moment.
I bloody was a problem, Theo. I don't know what you want to speak to my parents when they were trying to raise me as a 6 foot rugby player who didn't want to do his homework. I was quite belligerent about the whole thing. Yes, I was a bloody problem.
Yeah, my
But
daughter
I,
seems
I,
much less scary now, at like 3 foot or whatever, than you were as a 6 foot rugby player.
yeah, with little emotional intelligence at the time, feeling a bit stupid and wanted to go see his friends instead of do homework. That's probably not a great situation to be in. But hey, Theo, we all have. Look, as I've read, somewhere, if we're not embarrassed about our younger selves, there's something wrong with us. We haven't, meaning that we haven't grown, we haven't developed as a person. So yes, extremely embarrassed about a lot of things I did when I was younger. Of course. Do I want to talk about them on any podcast? No, no. But if I was to pick a podcast with which to speak to them, it would be yours, Theo, of course.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love that idea. If we're not embarrassed about our younger self, then there's a problem. If we're not, if we don't learn from our past experiences, then there is a
Yes.
problem. And sometimes they also, and I don't know whether you find this, sometimes I over index on thinking about stuff in a very intense way. Sometimes that stuff
Oh,
can be
Theo.
positive. Sometimes it can be negative. Sometimes I like have repetitive dreams, and I wake up and have repetitive thoughts. And some of them can be ideas, transformative. Some of them can be trauma, and that can be traumatic, and it can affect your day, your week, your month, how you perform. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you're hitting on a thing that I think is a David thing, not a Neuro D thing, but also connected because of the Neuro D thing. So from my other friends, I go, do you guys do this? And they go, no, that's a you thing. I'm like, all right, fair enough. So here it is. I over worry about everything, but never when it's happening. I always have to worry about it beforehand. I have to worry about it in case it happens so that I know what to do in the moment. So I have to worry about it first and have worried about like ridiculous outcomes. Like that will never happen. I have to worry about it first, so I would have to know what I would and should do should this come to pass. So the only times I get freaked out, and my wife laughs at me for this, is when something happens that I haven't thought to worry about beforehand. That freaks me out. If I haven't thought to worry about it already. Not that it's happened, that's fine. It's that I haven't worried about it beforehand. That'll freak me out. So there's a weird one for you.
Because you feel unprepared. You feel like you've not.
Yeah.
So there's a term for it, I think, which is like ruminating a thought. You know, that kind, the constant again, and again, and again. And actually, I do it with if I'm presenting or something. I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and for 3 hours, I'll be thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. Now, at the time, it's a nightmare because you want to sleep, and the next day, you know, you're going to be knackered. But I do know that the next day in the talk, I'm going to nail it because I've thought about the talk, the nuances, how I want the tone, what I could be missing. Like, and it's a powerful thing. But it's not a powerful thing when you've got a lot happening in a week and then it happens every single night for 7 days and then you're exhausted. So it's like this is why I always think these things about strengths and challenges are always a very fine balance indeed.
Yeah, definitely. Balance is I struggle with balance as well, like because I can get hyper fixated on stuff. The classic ADHD stuff. Like I can work all weekend on something because I thought it was a cool problem to work on, and then go Monday morning for actual work stuff I really get paid for. I'm like, this is so boring, and I'm tired now because I've worked all weekend. So, and then there's the other normal ones where you your kids are coming in, they're trying to do stuff, and you go, nope, that's not in the plan. We didn't plan for that, so it's not happening. But like, it's completely reasonable. Like, nope, don't care. I've already made my plan, and that's the end of it.
And how do you find that in terms of family life, being a dad, like the neurological differences and variations, and how that manifests through relationships and work and finding the balance? How do you find balance?
You don't. You get a close approximation at all times, or as close an approximation as is feasible at any given moment. And because there's two things, and I tell this to my kids. There's two rules you have to live your life by, and if you don't understand them, your life's still going to be governed by them anyway. You cannot make people how you wish they should be. That's one. Number two is you have one choice. You can either put up with whatever's happening, or you can walk away. That's your only choice. So within those two things, if someone's doing something, you don't agree with it, remember, you cannot make someone how you wish they should be. It's not your business. Don't get involved. You can say, fine, it's annoying enough that I will just put up with it and get on with my day. Or you can say, I don't agree with that, and then that's your line drawn. And that's personal for everyone. So I think in saying that to my kids, they also have the same the same opportunities to do that with me as I do with them. Although I pay for everything, so they're going to end up significantly worse off if they don't toe the line. And my wife also. I mean, she's returning back to college. She's going to be a social care worker, so she's learning an awful lot about the mind and how things work. Because I know you know this, Theo, but anybody else listening won't. We My oldest son, Ethan, he died 3 years ago in September, and he had Hunter syndrome. Here, actually. Ooh, since this is video, I can show you. There you go. That'd be him there.
Amazing.
So he had Hunter syndrome, and he died when he was 18. We knew he wasn't going to be with us for long, but when he passed, it was still a surprise. But he had a lot of needs, like a lot. I mean, Hunter syndrome is a horrible condition where the baby is kind of born with typical let's say typical, yeah, baby, that's it. And as they hit about 18 months to 2 years, the disease becomes prominent, and they start to lose abilities, and they'll have a build-up. How it was explained to us is, in each cell in the body, there's a little factory that goes on. It takes in stuff and it breaks it down and then gets rid of the waste, and the body takes care of it, and that's how we grow, and all our cells replace themselves. It's all a wonderful place to be. In a Hunter syndrome body, they're missing an enzyme that stops the breakdown in the cell, in every cell in the body, everywhere, everything. So it just builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up. So over time, they get distended belly. They get claw-like hands, claw-like feet. You have a lot of neurological differences, a lot of challenges. So when Ethan passed, he was non-verbal. Was in his wheelchair full time, doubly incontinent, needed 24-hour care. And he was fine one day, and the next day he was just rushed to hospital first thing in the morning. 12 hours later, he was gone. So it was like that. There was no big build up to it. We always thought we'd know more, we'd have more runway, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We'd know when he was doing bad, and we'd prepare, and but we were planning his 21st birthday, years ahead, stupidly thinking, oh, he's doing fine. Then, bang, gone. However, how that fits in, and sorry for bringing everybody down. We love him very much, and we remember
I
him.
very much appreciate you sharing it.
So, yeah, with a lot of his condition, there was a lot of challenge in the classroom. He went from being in a classroom with everyone else to at one point when we went in, and his chair was put outside the door, and with him sitting at it. So that exclusionary, we were like, oh no, this is move. And we got moved to a special school, and he went, because the condition is progressive. He was into the mild first, and then he was getting a little bit worse, he was unmanageable by them, and then
Yeah.
we had to think about moving him again into another school. So his whole world moved again from one school where he knew where he was going to another school. So all his friends are gone, a whole new set of people. So when you're dealing with someone with that level of need, and where you put in that amount of care, the care with which you give yourself goes down. There's no balance there anymore on that. So when you're asking me how we get balance now, I haven't found it yet. So we're still in that mode of do everything for everyone else, and we're still getting to feel how life should be without him, and without all the different things that would happen when he was there. And now we have to pay more attention to ourselves, because otherwise what else do you do? So we've our other two kids, which are unaffected, although very probably have my personal gift of ADHD. Here you go, sons. So we're struggling to deal with that right now as well. So while I would love to have an answer to where the balance comes from, I don't know yet, and I can't answer that. And I'm looking forward to finding it, though. Maybe in a year or two. Who knows?
So my question to you, and really thank you for sharing that, because I think sometimes we need perspective, we need understanding, empathy, appreciation. And I think what's happening at the moment, COVID, what's going on in the world, the level of impact, the lack of funding across services, education system, that pressure falls on the shoulders of parents often. And there are other pressures, right? And it's not just about an individual child, it's around their own mental health and well-being. It's around retaining a roof over our heads. It's trying to maintain positive and to be the person you want to be. All of these things, and I wonder how much of these things we ever share with our workplace or outside of a very close network. And I guess my question to you is, what are your thoughts or your advice to fellow co-workers, employers, on how we can be better people, better friends, better co-workers, better employers, to support people? Not necessarily that we need to know every facet and aspect of what's going on in their lives, but just the level of weight of responsibility. Like you say, you gave up almost every aspect of yourself and your wife in terms of your time, your energy, because it was the right thing to do and you had to. What can others do to support both you at that point and you and other people like you, like myself, at different, we talk about the degree of need of support, right? But we will all be in a state of crisis, of stress at different points because of people we care for, we love, and we want the best for.
Yeah, to you, you're dead right. What would I like to see in the future for workplaces? I would like to see in the future for workplaces that you always have, you have this typical, oh, we'll have a pizza party. Why can't you bring your kids or your family to the pizza party? Not that expensive. I think the family should be more included in the workplace. I think if you can spend, like big companies spend thousands, hundreds of thousands on big marketing events, bring families in. Invest in your employee. I think your employees are your best salespeople. If they love the company and they love the brand, you know, bring them in, open the place up to them, get other people knowing other people's families. That's where you're building the strength and connection. We're not built. I don't think we're built as, in my opinion, because this is not. It's just my opinion. My thoughts on the matter is that I think us as humans are built to be a tribe, and we're meant to mix in different tribes. So having that interconnection means bringing your family, bringing your friends to meet other friends and other people's friends. And that's how that happens. And if we want to build strong connections, build reliable networks, that's how it's done. Allowing that free flowing of full information, not just the work mask you wear when you put on the suit and stand up with your name badge on. If you bring the authentic person, the authentic self to work, even if it's just for casual Fridays, you can still do your suited and booted Monday to Thursday should you wish to do it. But if you're doing something, do the extra little bit and go, hey, if you want to bring your wife, family, girlfriends, it's only a pizza party and a couple of pints. It's not going to cost all that much, but the benefit I think you will see from it is that you'll have a better interconnected workspace. Also, more free-flowing information from people who have differing conditions and different points of view, allowing that free flow of information.
It's really important, and I think an example is if you've got somebody, for example, with a child that needs additional support. Let's say the child is autistic or dyslexic, like one of my children, like me, and you've got the mum who is an executive. Let's say they're a senior position. They got to go to an organisation away day. They've got to stay in a hotel. Now, that organisation pays for these executives to go and stay in this hotel for this away day. Yet, who looks after the autistic child? They're a single parent. Who looks after the single child? Where's the consideration for that? The expectation is that the parent goes to this away day. But who pays for the extra care of the child? Because they're going to need specific care. You can't just put them with any old childminder. They need to understand their needs to make sure that they feel looked after and protected. And organizations often don't do that, do they? And I think you explain it really simply there. It's like invite the kids to the pizza party. Consider the impact on the person when you invite them. Not just come, but what is the potential impact? I think that's so powerful. And that can be looked upon all different areas of your your strategies to be more inclusive. When really
Family,
are you being more inclusive?
That's who minds the child. I bet you'll see this as well. Family, the only people that will step up and mind your child when you have to go to something for your own career progression or you're expected to be there, it's family who'll step up. Grandparents, brothers, sisters.
And even then, that puts a stress on them because they, what I find is for them, they don't know. My child, I've spent 2 hours every single night for the last 10 years getting her to bed. That's what it takes, right? Every night. So that's 2 hours every night that I don't have. Because I'm focused on trying to get her mind in the right place that she can go to sleep. Now, if I'm not there, she's not going to sleep. That's the reality. So, so somebody else being responsible for it, it has an impact, which means the next day she is heightened stress because of lack of sleep and possibly poor nutrition because didn't eat properly, didn't sleep. And so the impacting factor of me not being there is significant. and I wonder whether you feel this way. And this is sometimes just we don't talk about this stuff, right? Or we may talk about it briefly, like you may mention something, but people go, "Oh, okay," but they don't really know like what is going on underneath there, and therefore they're not. And it's maybe we not that we don't want to tell them; it's that there's not the real interest in fully understanding to make the relevant changes, adaptations to be more inclusive, to be more welcoming, which sometimes is actually not that difficult. Like you say, just offering alternatives that, okay, you can't go to that. Well, why don't we set up a pizza fun day and all the families come along, or we set up something else where we go and do Lego building and families can do Lego building in teams, and we can come up with ideas and break boundaries with like that's well, let's go, it's good fun, let's go do that, but they don't. Or Roblox, we get on Roblox and get the adults getting beat by the kids. These things are not complicated, but they are powerful, and I would love to see more of that, David.
You
Don't you
did
think?
right. You brought back some memories there. Bedtimes with Ethan, we had a very strict routine because Ethan's very routine based. His neurod thing as well as ours, but getting him off to bed had to be done on time every time, or he'd get overly cranky and aggressive. But for about a year and a half after he passed, we still had the internal need to be here because that was the thing. We had to be here for those times. Even after he passed, we still had to be here, and we only discussed it when we don't actually have to be here at 7 o'clock. It was just so weird. For the first couple of times, we've gone, I'm not going to go home for 7 o'clock. And for Geraldine more so than me, she was his full-time carer. So when she didn't have to be here, and when she started going, no, I'm going to go and stay the night with my sisters. I don't have to be home. It was just so weird not doing it, because after doing it for 15 years, it's your life, So it's
Absolutely.
hard to unbreak those things, and it's hard to unlearn them and hard to transmit them, because after a certain amount of time, it just becomes a part of you, and you don't think about it, talk about it. It's just the done thing now, and trying to communicate that is difficult.
Wow. And so there
Pizza
is.
parties, and then you can.
Yeah. Get some more pizza parties. But no, I think
Yeah.
that something that really powerful that I'm getting from that actually is that change is not always easy, and change of 18 years that feels now like your neurotype, like your life,
Yeah.
is not an easy thing to shift. It takes time, energy, effort, and actually you've got to want to do it to be able to achieve it. You've got to have a new focus, meaning to be, what is it? And I love the fact that I see so many incredible people through their life's experience go and take that experience, which it sounds like what your wife's doing, and implement it to impact positively other people's lives. And I've seen this so much, especially from people experiencing from the parental experiences where there's been neurological challenges or other challenges that have been more significant, more extreme for those parents, to be able to take those experiences and help others is the most important thing that we can do, I think, because unfortunately government transient, education system takes years, health sector takes years. For a person to decide to do what your wife does in that context, that is taking life in control. So just it's I think a powerful concept and idea that we need to take control of our own lives, but we can support others to be able to support and facilitate and help them to get some level of control over their lives. So on that basis, David, as we bring this to a close, what do you see as the future? What would you like to see for yourself, for the wider world, for the concept of neurodiversity, neuroinclusion, anything that is kind of sat within your heart at the moment exploding?
I want to get one thing. Anybody who's out there in the workplace or not in the workplace, get a mentor. Start talking to people. This is the only way forward, and it's the best advice I've ever been given, and the advice I give most to everyone else. Get a mentor. You can have more than one. Just pick someone. Just walk up and say, I think you're cool. I like the way you conduct yourself. I'm looking to have a mentor. It's not a lifetime deal. You can just have a couple of cups of coffee and talk stuff out. You can have many mentors for every different section of your life should you wish to do so. But it's when you start to have those conversations and start to plan to have conversations and start to plan to communicate, then communication becomes a lot easier than if you want to use something that's a little more sensitive that you haven't spoken about before. You have a test bed with your mentors. I want to talk about this. Then if that goes well, then you can talk about wider people, and then we start to open up as people. We start to open up as communities. We start to open up as companies, and we start to build better networks. But it all started from just asking one question: will you be my mentor?
Oh, and let me just add to that because I think that is brilliant, which is if you've been a mentor, um, if you've had a mentor, be a mentor, right? Pay it forwards. One of the most powerful experiences I had, I mentored a very young person who came into my workplace. He messaged me, came and met me. He was about 21 at the time. Had decided not to finish his university degree. Started the company. He's flying now. And what happened over that period of time is I wasn't his single mentor. He was very clever. He got many mentors. I was blessed to be one of them. And what's happened now is reverse mentorship. Because of the speed at which he's grown, I'm now being mentored by him in terms of his work, his business growth. And he was the one who had an influence over me deciding to become independent to do some of the work that I did because I saw what a young person could achieve so quickly with
You're not
such
going to
drive and
drop a link?
commitment.
Come on, Theo. Is it a secret? You're not going to give him.
Oh, well,
You're
no.
not going to give him
So
a
he
shout
runs a
out?
company called Tappin. His name is Milimo Banji Mills, and Tappin is his company, and he does incredible work for young talent who've been marginalised. Hyper focus on black talent who faced significant barriers in getting into workplaces that otherwise where they didn't see representation. So for me, transformative work that he did with a passion, but I just wanted to help, but in the end that help has turned around to help me. So it's funny like asking for mentors, being a mentor. The gift is so powerful. It goes way beyond anything you could consider, and if you do it for the right reasons and ask for the right reasons, then I absolutely agree, David. That is just a beautiful bit of advice and a wonderful way to end today's session. I thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to spend a bit of time with you when I came to Galway, which, by the way, is such a beautiful, wonderful place to live. I'm very jealous. And yeah, I just love your shared lived experience, what you're willing to give to the world. And the workplace needs more incredible people like you, David. So I know that Genesis are very lucky to have you, as would any organisation or any team. And I'm privileged to have shared some time with you. And I thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Theo. Love you too, man. I love what you do. Keep doing it.